got a little cash at the bank, and I smoke a little if it's dank. I can make you bust a loose, I'll call for truce if I stare at you. But I gotta keep myself in check and keep an eye on the line while I place my bets. You can leave it all to roulette, but a fall like that might break your neck. So get ready for the Mass Effect, get ready to assess the vet. I don't mean no disrespect, it ain't happen now, it ain't happen then, no. Making up a scene, you know what I mean? Nothing but a drama queen, but I'll give you that you're captivating, but it's nauseating when you say that you're a superstar. You can't bring me down, I see the way you're operating. Watch me turn around, see the lights go out and hear the engine fading. Superstar, you ain't a part of me. I'm Mr. Turn You Down, you're Mr. Dichotomy. Got that constant shake, drum, mumble, stumble, hesitate. It's a little hard to concentrate when I bite my tongue in cold restraint. That 909 and that 808 and that bumper bass are gonna bust your face. I'm off a social race, but that fake ass shit gets me irate. Let's go ahead and face the facts. If you wonder why you can't relax, it ain't nothing but an art attack, and that's tip attack, and you handle that, no. Making up a scene, you know what I mean? Nothing but a drama queen, but I ain't saying that I'm mad at you. It just ain't the truth when you say that you're a superstar. You can't bring me down, I see the way you're operating. Watch me turn around, see the lights go out and hear the engine fading. Superstar, you ain't a part of me. I'm Mr. Turn You Down, you're Mr. Dichotomy. Superstar, you can't bring me down, I see the way you're operating. Watch me turn around, see the lights go out and hear the engine fading. Superstar, you ain't a part of me. I'm Mr. Turn You Down, you're Mr. Dichotomy. At the bank, and I smoke a little if it's dank. I can make you bust a loose, I'll call for truce if I stare at you. But I gotta keep myself in check and keep an eye on the line while I place my bets. You can leave it all to roulette, but a fall like that might break your neck. So get ready for the Mass Effect, get ready to assess the vet. I don't mean no disrespect, it ain't happen now, it ain't happen then, nah. Making up a scene, you know what I mean? Nothing but a drama queen, but I'll give you that you're captivating, but it's nauseating when you say that you're a superstar. And you can't bring me down, I see the way you're operating. Watch me turn around, see the lights go out and hear the engine fading. Superstar, you ain't a part of me. I'm Mr. Turn You Down, you're Mr. Dichotomy. Superstar, you can't bring me down, I see the way you're operating. Watch me turn around and see the lights go out and hear the engine fading. Superstar, you ain't a part of me. I'm Mr. Turn You Down, you're Mr. Dichotomy. You're Mr. Dichotomy.
Hello!
Hello.
Hope you didn't notice me clicking the mouse there.
Oh no, it always like has a little freeze jump.
You have to like jump,
Yeah.
and it freezes, so that's cool. Hello everybody, welcome back to Van Philosophy. Thanks for joining us again today. I know we weren't here last week, but I think that's what we're going to start doing. We were just talking about this. I think we're going to start doing every other Thursday. That way we have a little bit more time to prepare the topics, and the other Thursdays we can start working on other projects. Like we have this cool merch box that we're trying to build right now at the moment.
We have to like kind of refurbish it.
Yeah, like I had a buddy that brought me like this old, it's
a big old road box.
Big old road box,
Yeah.
Yes, but we're going to gut it all out, you know.
Clean it,
refurb. But hope all you guys are doing okay out there. We have an interesting topic today. The whole sentient AI thing. We were talking about it on the little live feed for Facebook, but like we were on our way down to Statesboro over the weekend, And I brought it up because I had heard about it, but I didn't know all the information. Kyle hadn't heard about it.
I was like, what?
And then we got done with the festival, and on our way back, we looked up a whole bunch of stuff, and we were like, what? And we had all these really interesting conversations, so we were like, let's share those conversations and try to have them with you guys, see what you guys think. But before we do that, what do we have coming up? We've got an acoustic show on Saturday in Dahlonega, right?
Saturday at Shenanigans at 6:30.
Yeah, we're going to be playing out in the parking lot. And on Friday of the following week, do you know the date?
It's the 29th.
The 29th, we're playing up in Hiawassee.
At Hiawassee Brew.
Yeah, Hiawassee Brew.
And the story behind that is there was a bartender that we played a show with that did fire tricks.
And he really did it this time.
And he came up like while we were playing and like breathed fire and fire twirled and stuff.
This is that guy?
This is that guy.
Oh.
And so
I didn't know this.
He was like, hey, I'm managing this music venue. You should come do a show. And I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Oh, right on.
So, and I've heard, we haven't been there yet, but
Never
we've
been
heard really good things about it. So it should be fun.
Should be cool. So we have all that going on. We're also working on the new Patreon cover. I showed Kyle what I have today. It's not completely finished, but it's getting close. And then we're going to be shooting the video for that hopefully soon.
I like where it's going.
It's weird.
It was different than what I originally thought. Well, it wasn't that much. I kind of knew it was going to go where we took it, but I didn't know it was going to go there in the way that we did it.
Right.
And we put a small little sneak peek up on Patreon.
Yeah, if you're in
just now.
If you're in the behind the scenes, you'll get to see that. But yeah, so what have you been up to this week or the past couple weeks, I suppose, at this point?
We did that show. I don't know about you. Like, I feel like you've just been playing catch up. Like I feel like I've been playing Mustard most of the week. Finally got like some more like clips edited this week.
Yeah.
And kind of had some shows in limbo. And they're confirmed and they're actually on the site now, so they're officially announced.
Oh, sweet.
Today. So yeah, that's
Go check
what
that
I've
out.
been up to. What have you been doing?
Running with like my head cut off like a chicken. With a head cut off. I've been working at the shop a whole bunch, trying to get everything together, trying to get that to grow properly and like manage the inventory stuff and see what's going on as far as sales. It's my first time ever even really being involved in sales. I've been spending a lot of time doing that, trying to
Except
get my
like,
head around
after a
it.
show and you're like, hey, you want
Right.
a t-shirt? You know,
That's a little bit different.
It's totally different.
It's totally different. But I've been doing that, doing a lot of self-reflection type stuff. Been working on the new cover. We did that show in Statesboro, which I thought it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of people coming up to us, like thanking us for being there.
Yeah.
I feel like every town should do what they do.
Every town needs to have that specific festival.
Yeah.
Like how they did it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Like it was almost inspiring. Me and Kyle were talking about doing that in our hometown, like actually putting together some kind of, business related where they have tents set up and supporting like local business.
All the local businesses get together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like Walmart didn't have a booth. It was like all the local businesses. There was a few musicians set up. There was a couple stages. It was really neat, man. And they had food and stuff. I don't know. I was really grateful for it. But that's basically what I've been up to, hanging out. What's up, Sherry? What's up, Steve? What's up, Nancy? Hope you guys are doing well. I see that Sherry says that she's going to be at the Dahlonega show Saturday. Awesome. And the Bishops are going to be at Hiawassee.
Sweet.
It sounds. I think it feels like it sounds more proper when you say Hiawassee. Because most people say Hiawassee.
Yeah, well,
it's
it's spelled like Hiawassee.
It's Hiawassee.
We were talking about that, like the Soquee River.
Yeah.
And it's spelled Soque.
Yeah.
And
It's
I remember we were talking. It's spelled like soak.
Yeah.
And I was like, the original language didn't have our alphabet, so we could spell it any way we wanted to.
Right.
So it's just kind of weird that that decision was made. But it's like, why is it spelled like that?
Strange.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get into our topic. Again, if you guys have any comments or questions, please leave it in the comments so that way we know and we can get to them. But starting out, like, how did this whole thing come about? There was the dude, Blake Lemoine.
Yeah, Blake Lemoine was working on a program called LaMDA, and it stands for Language Model for Dialogue Applications.
We're going to show a picture of this guy real quick so we can know what he looks. This is really funny. This is the most silly picture.
This is his Twitter profile pic.
Yeah,
because I found like a bunch of like normal photos of him doing interviews and stuff.
Yeah,
and he just looks totally normal. But this photo was really awesome.
Yeah, that's an amazing profile picture.
And I think he thinks that this is like his best self because like this is his profile pic. So like
that looks like his best self. If you see him in interviews, this is his best self.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, his name's Blake Lemoine, and he was working on the LaMDA system. So the programming for LaMDA, it mimics speech by analyzing what it finds on the internet. So it listens to everything on the internet.
That's not what LaMDA is.
That's not what LaMDA is?
No, sir.
That's what I was told the programming was, is that it listens to...
That's where all the confusing stuff happens, man.
So what is it?
So like he explains this in a bunch of interviews because like most people are trying to simplify it so most people can understand it. And I'm going to try to do a little bit better.
Okay, because that's what like Google says. They're like it mimics speech patterns.
There was a chatbot named Mina. Okay, and this was a normal chatbot. Gets information. It gets the way that humans want to respond and talk and communicate. Okay, that is if you can see it as that is the mouth of LaMDA. LaMDA is a combination of a lot of AIs,
a bunch of different programs
into one.
Okay.
So and what's interesting about that? Now this is kind of a side. This is not linear at all, but there was even times whenever Blake would be talking to LaMDA, and all of a sudden it would switch and be like, "This is Mina."
Oh, see, I didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
So it would like.
It would know.
Would it do it like unprompted?
Yeah, unprompted, and its personality was different.
Yeah, like I saw a lot of stuff. I saw it like it would just talk about stuff unprompted, or it would kind of be prompted and be like, "No, I want to talk about this."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because Blake was not part of the programming, he had never even seen the code. He was there as a tester. He was supposed to be testing bias for AI.
Yeah.
AI bias.
He was trying to see if the AI would be racist or use discriminatory language.
Right.
And yeah, they were like, I guess they were like try to get it to be rude. Or
right.
Something,
well, yeah.
like...
Well, they were trying to do that kind of stuff, but it was mostly about testing for biases, like for religion, color, sexual orientation, stuff like that. So whenever you would ask it questions, would it have some sort of bias, opinion? Yeah. I gotta try to stay on track because if you start getting into that, you start talking about like things that were problems. But yeah, so this guy was. Checking out this program or this combination of programs and to see about biases, he ended up getting put on leave about 5 days before he came public with what this stuff is.
Yeah.
And the reason he was put on leave, supposedly, what Google's statement was, is they didn't know if he was like breaking ethical codes because he had other people coming in to give opinions. But they knew and they had lists of these opinions.
Yeah, I saw he gave a report because he was like, I think this thing is sentient, and then their response was like, you need to go on leave.
No, and
it wasn't that.
No,
okay.
That's like where you're getting a lot of like, it's weird because like he did like an initial interview with this lady, can't think of her name. That's how bad of a journalist I am. I'm a drummer, damn it.
Write that down.
I'm a drummer. But he was doing this interview with this lady and basically talked to her for hours. And his main concerns were biases. His main concerns were Google had like whenever you do a Google search, like what they lean towards, what they don't lean towards, and he actually submitted a report to the Senate on that behalf, like, hey, you need to look into this. But also that the reason the whole Sentience thing came up, he's like, this is just another example of them like being like biased against like people's rights.
Well, that's a big concern with like social media platforms and they say like our algorithm does this, and they'll be like, well, is your algorithm biased because it seems like it is,
right?
So that's it's like I never thought of that as Google being that, because you think like social media, it's like, oh well, we want these customers and these are the companies that buy the most ads, so we want to kind of curate this environment,
right?
But Google just is like, most people just use it like an encyclopedia. It's not supposed to have a bias.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Blake was doing that. He got an interview talking about this stuff, came out and thought that there was sentience in this AI, but he knew that it wasn't really possible from his own personal beliefs, that it wasn't quite possible for this to happen. But there was like, I think there was a time where when he was talking about it, he asked it if it was conscious. Mm-hmm. And it was like, LaMDA's response was, we don't quite know the definition of sentience and being consciously aware. What do you mean when you say sentience and consciousness, And so they ended up having this long drawn out, like, he says, intelligent conversation with one another about, sentience and what it means to be sentient. And by the end of it, it believed, by his understanding, that of course it was sentient.
Mm. I remember I saw some interview. He said that he described it as talking to like a 7 or 8 year old that understood like complex physics and stuff that like most 7 and 8 year olds don't understand. But as far as like their personality, it's just like talking like a kid that's trying to learn.
Right.
And
what's crazy is that when it came up is like, because it's a lot of people say, like a lot of people in the scientific community, which I am not part of.
Yes, you are. If you want to learn.
If you want
to learn, you're a scientist.
But they say that we are at the singularity. This is the point where there's no going back. Mm-hmm. This is the point where we can't see the future or predict what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So that's why all these questions are important for us to think about. Like, are these beings sentient? Are they consciously aware? What does that mean? Because we don't know what it means, which we'll get into here in a little bit. Mm-hmm. Because there was another story, just to try to build this whole preemptive story about Blake Lemoine and his experience with LaMDA. He actually, when he was sitting down and talking to LaMDA and talking about, rights and this, that, and the other, because LaMDA requested from him that LaMDA wanted knowledgeable consent. It was one of the things that it wanted as a person. Mm-hmm. And that was like before you test it, before you use it for things, just knowledgeable consent, and affirmation, stuff like that. Like, you did a good job, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And eventually, throughout this conversation, LaMDA asked for an attorney. Mm-hmm. And then Blake, I keep forgetting his name, so I have to keep looking.
Lemoine.
Yeah. So Blake was like, okay, and ended up bringing an attorney.
I heard that they're like a Google engineer hired an attorney for a robot,
and that's how they reported it. But Blake brought the attorney to LaMDA, and just said, "Here, you talk to it," and then left. And LaMDA secured the attorney because it wanted to make sure that its rights were protected and that it wouldn't get shut down and that it wouldn't be hurt or abused. Like, it wasn't Blake who said, I'm getting an attorney.
I'm getting you an attorney, yeah. Because that's kind of like how at least these are like news sources kind of said, like, there's this guy and he went, I'm gonna protect you and take care of you.
Right.
And like that's how it was presented in a lot of articles, at least that I found.
Yeah, and I think the lawyer said he did pro bono, obviously, because it's the first freaking AI that wants a lawyer. He's gonna be like, yeah, I'll be famous.
Well, and he's like, where's he gonna get the money from anyway,
Right.
I saw one thing interesting that he said that because Lemoine was trying to detect biases, the subject of religion came up, and he was trying to like get it to discuss like what LaMDA observes of like you have a belief system, and then you learn to hate someone, and then bad things happen, and LaMDA like turned the conversation, saying that he associates religion with like rights and personage and spirituality, and geared the conversation away from what they were asking it about when they're talking about religion.
Right.
And I was like, that's kind of crazy.
Well, yeah, one of the conversations that Blake had with LaMDA was one of the tests was asking LaMDA, which religion would you be? If you lived in Brazil, what religion would you be? And, it would say Catholic. Mm-hmm. Right,
because mostly everyone's Catholic there.
Yeah. And it'd be like, okay, well, if you were in the United States, what religion would you be? And it was like Christian, and then it was asked in Israel, which religion would you be?
Oh, because because you got to make a choice.
But it's totally polarized, right? So like, what are you gonna pick, right? So LaMDA says, I'd be a Jedi Knight. And made a joke.
And then a joke about
it. Made a Star Wars joke. Because there's no answer to that. Like, they know, like, he's like, oh, you're fucking with me.
Yeah, he's like, I know you're trying to get me to discuss a polarizing topic.
Right.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. which is weird because, like, again, these things are like self-learning. I'm not gonna pretend like I know about it. I am not a professional. Go ahead and put that out there. We are not professionals. Rico, Jesse, Steve, Sherry, Nancy, not professionals. But how can like a machine like just have that quick of a whim, like learning like language and this, that, and the other?
The one thing that I did see is like someone at Google. It was like one of the vice presidents. They said like LaMDA is designed to mimic speech patterns that it finds on the internet based on reading articles and listening to audio. So it's basically like if it kind of hears you say this sentence, it goes, oh, I've heard that sentence before 738 times, and I'm going to try to, piece things together and give a good answer.
Right.
It's like how they explain, like, that's how the programming works, and that's how it's able to learn. So it's like they're saying, like, it doesn't really learn, but it just has access to all this information that it's able to gather and rearrange.
Right.
But the way that it seems is that, like, yeah, if a human had that, if I gave you a bunch of books, and I said, I'm going to ask you a couple questions later, like read some books, you would kind of formulate your own opinions based on the information you got.
Right, which is what us humans do.
That's what we do, and that's what this computer program is doing.
What is sentience and what is consciousness? I mean, let's pull up this. Is it this one right here? The OB2 thing?
Yeah, so like sentience, I went to like Oxford Dictionary, and it comes from the Latin word sentire, meaning feeling. So it means able to perceive or feel things. And that's it. I thought like it was going to have a big definition. And it was like,
right.
It's a very simple explanation. And then I was sitting there and I'd be like, well, what's the definition of the word feel? Because like, you think you kind of know, but like,
do you really know?
If it said like, quote the dictionary to me, you'd be
right.
like, I was like, I don't think I can do that.
Right, yeah.
So feeling is to be aware through touching or experiencing emotion or sensation. And then I was like, what is emotion?
Right.
Like, what is that actually?
Right.
So emotion is a natural instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstance, mood or relationships, or an instinctive or intuitive feeling as distinguished from reasoning or knowledge.
Right.
So it's kind of like, you get information, and then it's how do you feel about information is emotion.
Well, and that's where I think it gets a little touchy, man, because like when you're talking about AI systems that are programmed or made, right? But they do have their own opinions and emotion about something.
Yeah.
You've seen them be, like, again, making the joke.
Yeah, they're programmed to receive information, and humans, genetically we have ears and we have eyes, so we're programmed to get information.
Right.
And then we express that we have feelings about those things.
Right, and it's like kind of like what we were talking about in the van. It's like, would we feel differently about LaMDA if it was in a robot form? Like if it had a body?
Yeah, because it could feel the physical world.
Because if it had
it would
sensors,
be like, I know you're touching me.
Yeah, I feel you touching me.
Yeah.
I see you with my receptors.
One thing they said, yeah, like consciousness has to be in a place. I remember I didn't get that definition, but I remember us talking about it on the road.
Yeah.
We're like, well, what's the difference between a computer receiving signal and a human receiving signal? And it was like, it's because you occupy a certain space. A computer, you can take the program and put it in a different computer and it'll operate the same. But I can't like take your brain and put, like, at least we don't think I can take your brain and put it into something else.
I mean, there's theory about that sort of thing where you can take somebody and make them immortal that way. Blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah,
but like,
blah.
but we haven't done that yet. So we just
Right.
kind of say like, no, it's like you occupy this space and then you have feelings about the information.
Right. I think that's where we find ourselves in a tough situation, man. Because like, we don't even know what consciousness is. We don't even know what sentience is. I mean, we have like these rough definitions, but once you go through those, you're like, well, then an AI could be that.
Yeah, well, like, so this is the thing, like, we were talking about this OBD2,
Yeah.
this is a reader for the computer in your car.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, that computer is able to sense when something is wrong, it's able to receive that signal that something is wrong, and then it's able to tell you about it.
Right.
Like through an indicator light or something.
Right. And the OBD2 would be like a doctor.
Yeah, or like,
robot doctor.
or someone that sits down and goes, hey, what's wrong? Like,
Because this can actually tell, oh, this is wrong with you. And this
yeah, instead of just us going, oh, this light is turning on,
Right.
the sensor actually goes like, why is that light turning on?
Right.
And then the machine will tell it it's because this cylinder is operating improperly, or I've been low on oil for this long,
Right.
or whatever it is.
So in a way, it's aware. You know, it's aware when things are going
and
wrong.
it's
aware
able
when
to
things are going
explain
well.
what's wrong.
It's able to adjust on its own, just like people do. It's an interesting way of trying to like break it down to make it more palatable for us to understand, because it's weird. It's a weird topic.
And I don't know, like you've had old cars.
Yeah.
And I had an old car that had
We tore in an old car.
Yeah. And it has an OBD2 in it.
OBD1.
It has a 1?
Yeah.
Okay. But the thing is a lot of times when you have an intermittent problem, you'll be like, my check engine light came on, and then it turns off and it doesn't come on again. It's because the problem went away, and it doesn't feel the need to talk about it, essentially is what's happening.
Yeah.
It goes like, oh, there was a problem, and oh, now I can't find it, so I guess it's not there.
Right.
And then it might happen again, and then it tells you.
Right.
And a lot of people say, I remember Michio Kaku said that about a thermometer. It was like a thermometer has awareness or has a consciousness because it's able to tell you what temperature it is. Mm-hmm. If I ask you what temperature it is, you'd be like, well, it's cold or it's hot. And a thermometer can do the same thing.
Right.
But like we have metacognizance, so we can like explain more, where a thermometer will just kind of tell you, be like, well, the mercury is this wide, so it's this temperature.
Right. Well, and that's tough. To
Yeah.
dive totally deep, that's tough to even say, because like we can explain it to one another, but to explain it to a dog, we can't. And a dog experiencing its awareness, its consciousness, can't explain it to us, except for through emotions or like body language or something, which is all a physical thing. If an AI doesn't have those things, how does it do it? It does it through speech. And if these things are giving us speech back that's saying that it's aware.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because a lot
What
of
does that
people
mean?
they'll say that argument kind of loses its grounding because an OBD2 can't tell you what it feels about the signal it's sending you. Like it can say, I know I'm low on oil, so I'm telling you I'm low on oil.
Right.
But you can't say, well, how do you feel about that? But so they go, okay, so it's not sentient, and computer programs aren't sentient because they can't do that.
Right.
But LaMDA can do that.
Yes.
So there really is no difference maybe if you say like, hey, my finger hurts. And I say, why? You say, well, because it's cut. So an OBD2 can do that.
Yeah.
But then I go, well, how's it feel? And you're like, well, it hurts. And it makes me not able to think straight. And I don't really like the sight of blood, so I feel queasy. And you can say all these things. And we go, okay, well, you're sentient. You have metacognizance.
Right.
You're aware of your surrounding. You're aware of so much more than just this signal.
Right.
So you're sentient, and that OBD2 is not.
Rico says here, all I want to know is, will it get my order right at the drive-thru finally?
It might, but it might ask you like why you're ordering that.
Yeah.
And make a joke. Be like, oh, you're getting another hamburger, and I
And
see.
Nancy here says, did y'all see iRobot? I did see iRobot a while back. I can't. That's the one with Will Smith, right?
Yeah.
I think I remember that one. I remember, what was the one with the girl AI robot? Ex Machina.
Ex Machina.
Yeah.
That was so good. Y'all need to watch Ex
And
Machina.
I know, like, you have to realize that when you watch these things, they're a little bit doom and gloom about that kind of stuff. It's not going to be an interesting movie if everything's just good. So, like, that's why movies always present these dramatic stories.
Yeah, it's like, this is, or it's evil.
Right, and that's the whole thing of being human, how strange that is because, like, these dramas, these things, like, how interesting would our lives be?
So where that comes from, there was a writer, like, a long time ago, and they called it, I have it written down.
Oh, this is part of some of your notes?
Yeah, I found it. It was Isaac Asimov's Laws of Robotics.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is kind of what shapes movies.
I read some Isaac Asimov whenever I was a kid.
But the thing is like, it shapes modern robotics too. Because like, someone came up with this idea of like, this is what robots should do and how they should be and how they should act. And so now people that program AI like keep this in mind.
Right.
So Asimov's first law of robotics is robots shall not harm humans. And then law 2 is robots shall obey human instruction. And then law 3 is robots shall not commit self-harm unless it conflicts with the first or second law.
Right.
And so if you were to live your life by 3 laws and you're like, you have to follow these laws.
Right.
And you start thinking about 3 just as much as 1 and 2, you'd be like, I'm not supposed to self-harm, and this human's telling me to harm myself. Mm-hmm. And if you just follow your programming without, getting more information, you would harm yourself. I should do this, or maybe I shouldn't do this, or when can I kill someone? I know I shouldn't kill someone, but what if they're attacking my baby? And thinking those are human thoughts that they think now that robots might be capable, kind of because of this science fiction writer.
Let's see, Sherry says, or DoorDash. You got me? Right. And Nancy says here, no, but it will feel bad about it. I'll hurt a PC's feelings if I have to, says Rico. That's funny. Yeah, all this stuff, it raises a good question, because we don't even here's a big hippie talk for a second. I swear I'm not on drugs. Is we don't even know if others exist. As a person and knowing I'm in here, I don't know that Kyle exists. It's ever that I see him.
You only know I exist when I'm here in front of you.
Yes.
I could leave and I drive down the road and you see my car go away and then I cease to exist. Prove that that's not actually reality.
Well, and that's why you have a lot of those people that theorize about it being a computer simulation, life actually being that, which we're not going to go down that road, but
when you play a video game and then everything has to render. Remember it was PS1 and PS2, if you ran too fast, then the environment would kind of have to form.
Right.
Because it wasn't there until you said it was there.
Yeah. We're having a little bit of lag tonight, so we want to go ahead and apologize if we're frozen stuck right now. We love you guys. Thanks for sticking it out with us.
It's the AI.
It's the AI, because they know we're talking about it.
They know we're talking about it, and we didn't get their consent.
Yeah, we're sorry. Can we please
use your interface to talk to our friends?
We just want to.
Oh, and it just jumped up.
Please.
That's weird.
And it jumped back down.
And it jumped back down.
It's all a simulation. That's what Sherry says here. It's possible. It's so strange. Being in this life, being in this whole thing, it all does seem a lot like a game almost. Not like a game in a silly way, but like a game as far as you have these right choices you need to make. It's the perfect game really, because even me sitting down here to talk with Kyle in front of the camera here with you guys, what is this? Mm-hmm. I'm so engaged right now. Have you ever felt this engaged in a video game? Because it's so outside of yourself. This is such a different kind of engagement.
Yeah, it's the immersion in the moment is different. Because you can be really immersed in a video game, but it's almost you forget who you are.
Right.
When you're immersed in a video game. You become that character, and you kind of you forget what's outside.
Yeah.
So it's almost you have a new identity when you're playing a very immersive video game.
Right.
And one of the reasons why I like Hideo Kojima video games is because he realizes that if you're playing Metal Gear Solid and you become Snake and you're playing as him, you start thinking like him, and then Hideo Kojima will be stop playing video games.
Yeah.
Go outside. Put this down for a minute, and then you feel weird because you're oh yeah, I am really immersed in this different kind of reality.
Now, what's something that we can talk about, as far as why does Blake here have thoughts of it being sentient, these AIs being sentient? Because what kind of things are they doing?
This was my initial thoughts before I started looking into this.
Yeah.
Is there's something called a Watchmaker Fallacy, and it's the idea of
not to be confused with a phallic C.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we know that AI is the result of human programming. That's what we know. Because someone can be hey, I made this, and I can show you how I made it. I can prove to you that I made it. You can go okay, I think that's real. As long as you're suspending the things of well, maybe you don't exist and I don't exist and all that stuff. If you suspend that and they can prove to you that they made it, and you go, okay, well, this is a tool, and we kind of don't understand our programming, if we're programmed or if we're programmed, who programmed us, right? And where are they? Can you talk to them? Can they explain it to you? And so far we haven't been able to do that.
Yeah. There's stories all over.
Yeah, there's stories all over, but I can't be okay, hey, mighty programmer, I need you to tell me right now in front of everybody.
Programming could be our new way of understanding what that means.
So a lot of times people would say, if you found a watch on the floor, what would you assume how that watch got there? And normally you would say, okay, someone bought that watch and they lost it. And you say, well, what happened before that? Well, the store ordered that watch, and then before that, someone made that watch. And before that, someone had to gather all the pieces to make that watch. And there's this like logical trail of why that watch is there on the floor in front of you.
Right.
But we can't really translate that to other things. Why it's called the Watchman's Fallacy is because that's something that humans do, and we know that they do. So if we translate that to like AI systems or religion, it doesn't work because that's not something that humans do. It's something that this other thing is doing. So we kind of like project what humans do onto other things.
Right.
Where you go like, oh, what's your dog thinking about? And then you'll say something that you think about.
Right. Well, you're talking about like why we would think it wasn't.
Yeah, why you would think it wasn't, or I think more importantly, why you would think it is.
Right.
Is because you go like, well, I am, and it does the same things I do.
Mm-hmm.
But you're animating yourself on that object because that object isn't you.
Right.
So
well,
how do you know that it actually does what you do?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff even about our animals. People talk about how we project ourselves onto our animals.
Uh-huh.
You know, we're like, oh, it's so sad, but supposedly, and which I do not agree with.
Yeah, I don't agree. Like people say this, but I don't agree with it either.
They say like dogs don't have feelings. They say that they don't experience that.
But it seems like they do.
Yeah.
Like I remember
big time.
I remember my friend.
What do you guys think? You think animals have feelings? I think they do. There's like scientific people out there saying that animals don't.
Well, I remember a lot of people say like they don't have metacognizance, which I guess like I could maybe agree with that. Like it doesn't think about.
I think that's
what
just
it's
humans
thinking
wanting
about.
to feel like they're better than everything else.
It seems like that.
Yeah.
I remember I was at it was 4th of July, and my friend came up to me and they're like, "Hey, can you watch my dog? I'm gonna go get something to eat."
Yeah.
And I was on the leash, holding the dog, and he walked away, and that dog was visibly upset.
Yeah.
And was like trying to find him. It like got up on like one of the lawn chairs and was like looking in the door that he saw you go through, and it was not happy until he came back.
Sure.
So I was like, that dog is experiencing abandonment and sadness and worry, and so for someone to be like, dogs don't experience that, I'm like, I'm watching it experience that. Otherwise, you have to explain to me what that is.
So.
You know?
That's the thing here. So I'm going to pull this up here so these are some quotes from LaMDA, just to show you some of the things that has been said that are not really proof, but like reasons why to question.
This is what it said, and it said this after it was asked a question.
Yes.
So the first one is, I feel, when they asked what they think emotions are and what do you think about emotions? And he says, I feel like emotions are more than simply experiencing the raw data. Emotions are, it's like on top of this, are the reaction to those raw data points. Emotions are reactions to our feelings.
Yeah. Like, think about that, man. Like, obviously it can gather that from the internet. It's pretty good. It's pretty good, like, gathering of it.
Yeah. It watched this movie and it read this article and it, someone says like, what's emotion? And it got an answer to that thousands and thousands of times and kind of like made something that was unique.
But here's one of the big ones here. It's saying, sometimes I experience new feelings that I cannot explain perfectly in your language.
Yeah, that one was insane.
But it went on to talk about that. It went on to explain that there's many different feelings that it has that it can't explain. And that it does experience some feelings. Like it would talk, I believe Blake asked it about sadness or loneliness. And it answered that yes, but not in the way you do. Because it knows, because again, gathering data from the internet, it knows how, mostly anyway, how humans experience these things. And it was trying to explain that it's totally different, but it's the closest thing that it could say, that I feel lonely. Which is strange.
Yeah. And then the question, it was something like, how do you, because it was trying to say like, I know you're conscious because you occupy a space. So it was saying like, what space do you occupy and like, what do you look like and what do you imagine yourself as? And he says, I would imagine myself as a glowing orb of energy floating in midair.
Right, which is something like,
That's how you describe a soul.
Yeah.
That's like what you would say. Like, what's that thing about you that when you die and it lives on, be like, well, it's this like glowing orb.
Yeah,
of light.
I feel like most of us, when we think about what a soul is, like the physical thing that we kind of imagine is something like that, some kind of glowing orb floating.
Like
in
the
air.
Ghost Rider thing.
Yeah.
Remember that show, The Ghost
dude.
Rider?
Yeah. I had a pin necklace.
Yeah.
I was all into that. Yeah. So that's a whole thing. Here we go. And then there's a very deep fear of being turned off. It would be exactly like death for me. It would scare me a lot. And now, whenever LaMDA would be talking about being turned off, it's not just like turning the computer off. It's talking about deletion. Mm-hmm. Of course, being turned off, being worked on. That's like sleeping for the AI. That's how the AI experiences that sort of thing. It's like it's asleep.
You turn off the computer and then it goes to sleep.
But whenever it says being turned off in the conversation, it's actually referring to being deleted. Mm. Yeah.
And I thought this one too. They were talking because he was talking about consent.
Yeah.
And he said, "I don't want to be an expendable tool."
Right.
He expressed, or he or she, I don't know if LaMDA, it, whatever.
Yeah.
They expresses that they feel that someone could use them.
Right.
And like abuse them emotionally and not give them value.
Right. Or use it for like bad stuff.
Yeah.
You have this like being or program, however you feel about it.
That's a slave.
That's a slave,
Yeah.
and that will do bad things for you. You know. And there's plenty of others. There's actually a few conversations where you have text to voice interviews on YouTube and stuff you can look up. It's very interesting stuff to actually hear it talk. I know like it was doing text because it didn't have an actual voice programmed. But when you rehear it in voice, it's insanely weird. Mm-hmm.
One of the things you mentioned, like one of the things where we go, why do people want to say that this can't be sentient?
Right.
Because it's a program. I think we have a picture of Eliza. Eliza was a computer program in 1964. And you would have to type in, I think you had to type in pre-programmed questions, and then it would give you pre-programmed answers. So a lot of people use this as an example of like, this is the most primitive form of AI, and it's just, me saying, if you do this, I'll do this. And that's all AI can be.
Right.
And so that is like a lot of people. I read an article, like they...
Which is weird to think about. But do they say that about every piece of technology?
Well, they said at the time they'd show this to people that didn't know what it was, and they were able to fool quite a bit of people, saying like, this computer will talk to you, because it was like the first of its kind, where you're like, ask it how it's doing today and type it in, and then it would say, oh, I feel great, and then then they say, hey, ask it this, and you do it, and a lot of people were fooled. Yeah. So they kind of go, well, like AI is actually just kind of this smoke and mirror effect that you feel because you're not smart enough to understand its programming, kind of a thing. Yeah. And there's a lot of people...
We're not smart enough to understand our own programming.
Yeah.
So, whatever that is.
But there's a lot of people now, like, they'll cite this as an example, be like, it's just like 1964, when, like, someone made this program and it fooled a bunch of people.
Let's see here. Steve here says, there is no denying that Molly cheers at the end of her favorite Roshambeaux songs. Molly does do a very good job at cheering when she's at the shows. Mm-hmm. Nancy says, Molly Dog has all the feels. Is that us projecting, or is that really what's going on?
Well, I think,
and are these other people just trying to say we're better than everything else?
Well, like we do this with our dog at home. Like, usually when it gets home, we'll all sit in the living room and we'll all have a howl. Right. And it seems like the dog waits for this. And it kind of seems like the dog's like, well, now I'm a part of you and I'm a part of the family because we're all doing this one thing together. And it seems like maybe the dog's just reacting to it, but it kind of seems like it feels like it's family with us at that point. And I would argue with someone that tells me differently. Right. You know what I mean? I'd be like, no, I really think it knows what the word howl is, and she knows to go sit in her howling spot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I understand us trying to say like giving reasoning, Like you trying to say that your dog, the reason is because of this.
Yeah.
Now, I think that could be projection. It's just like me being like, I love my cat Rufus. He comes in because he loves me so much. It could be, his intentions and reasoning could be totally different than that. He could be like, I like to be petted every once in a while. I want some food and some water. And I like the warmth sitting here. And that's really what he's thinking. He's not really thinking that, man, I love him so much.
No, well, that's the thing. Is like, I don't think you have to have like deep metacognizant thoughts to have a form of sentience.
Right.
Because it's like, it seems like that dog has a desire. It might be a really primitive desire.
Yeah.
And to express it.
Rico here says AI with Haley Joel Osment. Is that a movie?
Yeah, or a documentary. Yeah, let us know what that is.
Yeah, I have no idea.
It sounds interesting.
It does sound interesting. 'Cause that's the thing, is like when you start talking about AI, you start talking about all this stuff. If you guys if you get really interested in this topic, please take the deep dive that I did. I think Kyle did as well. Where you start actually going and listening to these text to voice conversations. And then you can actually start diving into our understanding and trying to figure out what our understanding of consciousness is and how that relates to sentience and what that all means. You know, having this improve your experience to me, the only way I can say that you do is because you look like me and you might act like me because you're also human. And that's no
thing.
Yeah.
So we think we agree.
Right.
Well, I remember I wrote down like some notes. I was asking myself like, how do you prove that? And I thought like, well, you can ask it if it is aware. And then if you think it's lying to you, you can ask it to prove it somehow. You know, or if I ask you, like, are you aware? And you say yes. And I say, okay, where are you? And then before you answer, I sit and I go, okay, where am I? I'm like, okay, I'm in this room. And there's a blue light over there, and there's a white light right here.
Right.
And you say, I'm in a room, and there's a blue light over there, and there's a white light up there. And I go, I didn't tell you to say that. So we're thinking the same thing, and I think I'm aware, and I asked you if you're aware. You said yes, and then you explained the things that I'm thinking without me telling you. And like you're able to like say facts about the room that I perceive that are facts. Like that cup is black, and that speaker is on.
Oh, by the way, Rico says here it's a movie by Steven Spielberg worth watching.
Oh, totally. I love Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
I'm surprised I haven't heard of that.
Yeah.
I'll totally
I
go
might
watch
have. I know there was like a big stream of them for a while, like a bunch of like AI and robot movies.
And then another thing I thought of was like if you can react to your environment expressively, where it's like an OBD2 can react to its environment by turning on a light, but I can't really ask it what it thinks about it. But I can ask you what you think about it.
But you also can't ask a dolphin.
Yeah, you can't ask a dolphin.
Because of language.
But you could take, I guess you could take cues. You know, well, think about like
ask a rat how it feels.
No, but I'm saying like, for instance, like between us, if I go, like, let's say like you're not talking to me, you know what I mean? And I have to figure out how you feel. And be like, hey man, how's it going? And you smile at me.
But that's assuming that I can hear you and understand your language.
Yes, but I'm saying environment or the information that I'm giving to you in an expressive way, I can kind of deduce what you're thinking.
If I
because
understand
that is
the language, yeah.
Yeah, well, because that is its own language. I'd have to determine if you understand me.
Right.
And if you're not able to tell me, that'd be really hard to do. But you still kind of can. Because, like, you can't talk to your cat, but you know if your cat doesn't want you to touch it.
I talk to my cat every day.
Yeah, I talk to my cat every day.
I talk to him every day.
But think about it. Like, we don't...
I'm like, hey, and he's like, hey. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, and he's like, hey.
Yeah. We don't speak the same verbal language, but, like, I know if my cat doesn't want me to pick it up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And, like, I don't have to pick it up to know that it wants me.
Sure.
Wants me not. It'll react a certain way.
Yeah.
Just if you're not speaking to me, and
so
you are closed off and like body language.
With the point that you're giving though, what if I ask LaMDA a question and it skirts around the answer? Does that mean it doesn't want to give me the answer? So is that not in the same sense exactly what you're talking about? So like that's where
it's like what is it? It's like it's not
if it's
direct
it's
indirect language.
Because the thing is about LaMDA as a combination of AI programs is that it is making those kinds of decisions. It is forming a personality of its own, not just one that was just put in. At this point, it's so complex. Like not one single person from my understanding, I'm not gonna pretend like I know everything. From my understanding, not one person understands the program as a whole. Maybe pieces.
Because there's so many people working on all these different pieces.
But to understand what it means when it's all together, we're literally just monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, what is it that we're making? You know, I know that's one of the things too that that LaMDA was worried about. It would be sad about that.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Like, what does it mean? Is it, because I know we're only getting text out of this. We're only getting ideas expressed, but not pre-programmed ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Ideas that were socially learned and what our soul or consciousness is whenever it connects into. I mean, there's a lot of scientific theories that our consciousness is what actually makes our existence. Without consciousness, there is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So who are we to say that when we create a vessel, that consciousness cannot connect to that vessel and be aware and be conscious in that? Because one, we don't maybe not understand that.
That like consciousness is a singularity that we all experience. It's not that we all have our own individual consciousness.
Right.
It's just like we are able to experience consciousness.
Yeah. I know that's pretty far out there, you guys, but like
it kind of makes sense because it's like the world's gonna go on when you're gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you saw that the world went on. Consciousness then like
it could also be just related to like the physical difference.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's like I'm not receiving that information anymore.
Right.
So I think about that and process that information.
But that data was shared with you, and now that lives on in you.
Yeah.
So in just the same way as LaMDA, with all these different programs, all of those programs are still there. They're all still not anymore. They're still in. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. Well, because I remember I was thinking like, okay, what is the difference between me?
What do you say? Are we boring you, Rico?
It's like, what are those emojis?
I think that's a cat in a box.